Alcohol 1964 here, and of course another race course. This time it's Ayr. I'm in, Carlisle. So I've got a bit of a change, about a 25-minute wait between Newcastle to Carlisle and Carlisle to actually Kilmarnock, and a change of air to get to Ayr. About my 9th time I've been to Ayr Racecourse. Nice enough place. I didn't actually realise till about about 5 times been to Ayr. But actually, and in fact also the same for Hamilton, you can actually go via Carlisle. And I certainly didn't know that until this past 2018. I went to a Scottish Grand National meeting in Ayr and I actually stayed overnight. Cheap place, so it was only 25 quid. But I thought I had to leave before the 7th race of the 8 race card. Going back via Edinburgh, not realising go back by Carlisle. So quite a bit slower. It's only about an hour and a half slower. Have to admit, both ways. It's a very nice journey, but it's much slower than going via Edinburgh. Problem is, though, the last train out of Ayr tends to be quite early, going via Edinburgh, and it's difficult to make the final, especially if it's not, say, the start end of the year. It can be quite difficult to watch enough of it, all bar one, maybe even two of the races, and get the train. So that's Ayr. I did say I was off to Windsor on Saturday. Now, hopefully that's going to be okay. Yesterday's evening meeting, was out because of waterlogging. There wasn't hardly anywhere in the Windsor until Saturday from now, and I would be astonished if it's cancelled. If it is, I was assuming it was COVID, not actually the weather. But I can't really. I assume it will dry out by Saturday. If not, I already got advanced train tickets, so I'll just go to London for a day at the National Gallery again, or went to Sandown, or possibly Tate, or something like that. I'll see what happens. But I think the meeting should be okay, but we'll see what happens there. I'm actually next meeting after. In fact, I didn't say this because I said I had this plan to go twice to Newcastle with my local course, and actually first of those meetings is actually on this Thursday. I think it's Delaval Day, I'm not sure. Been to the other 2 days of the Northumberland Plate meeting previously. I don't like doing the same meeting twice. I would have actually considered going to the Northumberland Plate on Saturday because of the new Vars race. And that's one thing I'll say for ARC. I'm very critical of them normally, and also Newcastle Racecourse, which I think is very badly managed. But actually this Northumberland Vars, I think it's a Vars, with basic constellation race Northumberland Plate is a very good innovation. A lot of good high prize money, and I think it's a good innovation. Well, going to Windsor this year, I had thought possibly at some point on this Saturday, going to what was the Jump Jockeys known for, but York is an interesting meeting to go to. That's changed its day, whether permanently I don't know. It's later in the year, and I think it might be a little more expensive ticket than I'd like. But I'm going to look into that possibly. I said would have been on a Saturday, but I say last year and this year we've changed the day, so I'll see whether that's. So I might go next day, or I might hold off and just see what happens with it. But the plate this year, I have to say, I'm critical of some of ARC and Newcastle Racecourse. It's very expensive. I think too expensive. I know the lack of tickets, maybe because of COVID, but I think it's more than it should be. I'm not sure if it's more than it normally is, but I think it probably is. I think with 40 quid. Grandstand 60 quid premium, I'm sure that's more expensive by some way than it normally is. So I won't leave that for next year mainly. I feel now. As one issue, I did say, I assume, in a previous video, I assumed the timetabling would change yesterday, as in new times for trains. And I thought the new ticket portal was out then. I didn't realise that maybe 2 years on. And all that happened yesterday was the flexi tickets now came available. There's sort of a noise, and it take possibly 2 years now to see problems of timetabling. I was checking out on our website over the Twitter feed, and I was trying to see any information about what were possibly flexi tickets. So I'm certainly about doing more expensive than I want to pay. Especially to London, I think it just wouldn't. I suspect there's no value for me at all in it. That's why I just check out the costs. And then I want you to use the Orphan app because they don't have an app yet, so it says everything really. And an Orphan app didn't really help that at all. Sitting on Newcastle to London didn't mean nothing whatsoever. Partly using Peterborough to London, you're okay. So God knows what's going on with some of these things. But the other thing I noticed was there was a timetable change next year, and someone made a comment on Twitter, and a couple of likes, saying basically there's going to be some protests about this. And I was rather surprised, and I checked the timetable. And in the previous video, I'd said I was astonished. There's no 10 o'clock train out of King's Cross to Newcastle on a Saturday night. It makes life difficult for me if I'm going, but certainly because if I go to London and further away, cheap train tickets, and it's just as useful. It was Monday to Friday and Sunday with a 10 o'clock train out of Newcastle, out to King's Cross, Newcastle. It is also in the evening, and it's useful. Why it's not a 10 o'clock train Saturday? It might be a mixture of possibly people not wanting to piss to people. That's an issue more at York, when the train gets to York. I mean, about for the late trains, but that's because people are pissed later at night. You know, it's stopped 9, 10 o'clock at night, you're less likely to be drunk, maybe even later on. So it's not if they get to York or going north of there. It's just by the time the train gets to York, more people, by the time it gets there, it's more likely when people can be slightly drunk. But I suspect it's possibly well to renovation as times they do things like there was no trains on Boxing Day for the same reason. Boxing Day often tracker when it's renovated then. But I couldn't believe it. The timetable change May next year. Never mind, there's not going to be a 10 o'clock train. I looked actually to see if there'd been a 10 o'clock train on Saturdays. The 9 o'clock train has gone. I cannot believe this. It's absolutely ludicrous. Why in God's name is now the last train out of King's Cross to Newcastle going to be 8 o'clock on a Saturday, 10 o'clock every other day? This is crazy. There's a consultation. I complain strongly about consultation, and I just can't believe it. There's no reason for it. It's an absolute disgrace. There were people saying, well, it's better, state-run railways. Well, they are. It's a state-run. It took over from VTEC, that's Virgin Trains East Coast, and it's no better. And in fact, it could even be worse. The problem is, the same Muppets are running the show. There's none of the staff change. I don't mind the staff in the train, bar one guy called Dave, that's in my name, was an absolute arsehole to me about 4 or 5 years ago over a split ticket, actually really aggressive, and I just astonished. And I remember the guy's name, not partly because it's my name, but actually he was appalling to me. All the staff on LER, I think, or VTEC were perfectly good, and I think it's on the people of a cold face, so to speak, okay, so management, Dave Watts' face should have been, the whole management of basically VTEC should have gone. I'm not going to do LER, they should have been basically thrown out. I'm a supporter of pro-legislation. I think it's a TUPE legislation, is you cannot take over a contract and basically sack everyone and employ them on lower wages. And I agree with that. I think you shouldn't be allowed to do that. The problem is, though, a contract was taken over and had to employ everyone again. But this management of VTEC should have gone. But it already should have gone, really. I think that's the problem. These people should have been sacked already. It's so it's bad, especially some issues I might mention online, the website. Make it basically kicking off if you try and on the NER, with your VTEC and then the NER's website. The same situation is if you try and buy a ticket from non-NER train, they say, "Oh, do you want to use an NER train?" And in terms of conditions, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. And I complained once to National Rail about this. A train company supposed to be equal to offer ticket to each other train company equally. And National Rail showed mostly chocolate fire guard said, "Oh no, it's okay." I'm thinking, well, it's not. Obviously, you understand the own rules then, or you don't allow to enforce them. But it's not the only issue. There's no fumbling to be stabbed in the back. Equally, County Durham. I mean, there's now less. Partly to North Yorkshire as well. Northampton getting less trains because of the timetable change. Darlington are. There's issues about Morpeth. And basically, it's clear NER don't give a shit about anybody north of York now. They say, we're putting more trains down from Newcastle to London. Well, Saturday, that's fine if you don't want people to get back, because you're taking a 9 o'clock train out. And this is a complete farce. And I'll put a link up to a consultation, because people need to campaign against this, certainly if you live in the North East, because basically NER are acting like an absolute outrage. It doesn't matter who runs a train company, private or public. It's the idiots in charge are the same people. It makes no difference. So that's why, I'm very used to be a local councillor, and people in politics, local people don't really mind on the whole, like who runs bin services or services if it's private or public, as long as it's a good service, a fair cost, and hopefully they will want the staff to be treated right. That's all they want. It's not. They don't want any ideology shoved down their throats. And this is the point with trains. You want a good cut service, a fair cost, staff treated well, and that's all you really need. That's air. A bit bright, a bit warmer than I expected actually. It's just quite warm. I think where I'm just hovering on the parade wing instead of the breeze. The stands is quite warm. Nearly made a first race. God, I wish I'd judged me pint. First race a bit better. I was pretty flat out to air, and I'm saying I'm too overweight, and I think I can still walk quicker as quick as I used to do. a year or two ago to anyone, and that's not the case, I'm afraid. But I got you for first race safely enough. Here you go, get a wristband, but it's good if you wristband actually stayed on, which it doesn't. But anyway, I don't think it's a great issue, I just keep it with me. Had a pint with Tour Dogs, and I got in, oh no real ale was supposed to be, and it was pint with John Smith's. Smith's, actually, I have to say, wasn't quite as bad as I expected. It was only then when I got further down the bar, I got the pint. There was actually a problem sitting a handfall there. Problem is, you're supposed to order the top end of the bar, and handfall's right to the bottom, you can't see it. Rather difficult, but I'm not checking, and maybe I should sort of look further on the bar next time round. I must say, I'm supposed to be going back by Glasgow tonight and change around. I'm going to have a look, possibly, if I can go via maybe Motherwell or Kilmarnock. The ticket won't be an issue. I just need to get to Carlisle. Problem is, I don't really want to be stuck with a holy book. I know issue with Scottish football fans, but of course it's the Scotland game tonight. I knew there's Clash of England game. Of course, the Scotland game tonight at Hampden. Of course, is in Glasgow. So I'm just thinking, well, I'm just busy maybe. So I'll try and see if I can find another way back. But I'm not sure I can. I think I have to go around to Freeze. Should have time for a pint after racing. I've been to Ayr about, I think, 8 times before. Well, the last time it was an absolute nightmare on transport. Well, not my fault at all. I thought it was the first time actually I've gone via 2018, gone via Carlisle. And I thought, I planned this well, you know. I've worked a fine, I'll go to every single race and get back safely to Newcastle, only for there to be a northern train strike, which meant I couldn't actually hang around for the final 2 races after all. And then there were storms, and I remember in September, I think 2018, was heavy storms in Scotland, and it meant I missed the first race. So frankly, I only just got for the second race, and actually was struggling to get back in time. But there was Day of the Ayr Gold Cup 2018, and I need to get a train because there were issues about the transport and the train strike. If you remember 2018 Ayr Gold Cup, of course, that was the day of the dead heat, and I couldn't really leave before I knew the result. I never bet on it, I just wanted to know who had won, and I was, oh Lord, it's going to be dead heat, isn't it? It's taking quite long, about at least 5 minutes for the result to be declared. I'm going to have to run for this train. And I only just made it actually. I didn't make it I made it safely enough, but I basically had to run. I don't like running. I'm not very good at it. I have a hand-eye coordination disability, and I land rather heavily, and I don't like running. Walking quickly I can cope with. Running is less my scene. And then I get back and eventually find out where I got back was not acceptable apparently. I thought I could get a later train because going up because of the storms, and then to get a different train than one I booked on, because we wanted rather than free, so I think it had been cancelled. But I couldn't get back that way, and a very pedantic guy, Virgin West Coast, of a ticket office, said, no, you can't do that, you have to buy a new ticket. That's a lot to get to Carlisle. Had to get one. Luckily found a way of buying one for 10 quid, and then, as it is, the storms and everything, I was delayed the train so much, I actually got the train, I was delayed by an hour, and I actually got the ticket back again for 10 quid, so that serves him right to have been pedantic git, frankly. But it's a nice enough track. There's a couple of issues I do have. One of it, if you ever see the website, it describes itself as Scotland's only Grade 1 track. Well, hang on a minute. Traditionally, when you start yourself as a Grade 1 track, you need to have a sort of Grade 1 or Group 1 race, and it doesn't have a couple of Grade 2s, I know at least 2, it's the Scottish Champion Hurdle and the Future Novices Chase. So why are you calling yourself Grade 1 track? It's sort of, you're saying something you're not. An issue with calling itself a Grade 1 track, we're known as Grade 2. I don't think there's any group races for that, I don't believe so, but there's a couple of Grade 2 races. There's a Kelso, also in Scotland, Scottish borders, has a Grade 2 Premier hurdle. So hang on a minute, you can't. What grounds you call yourself only Grade 1 track, and when Kelso is exactly the same the highest quality race of Kelso is the same as yours? I think you might just be a very good racecourse. It's bizarre. I don't understand why you call yourself Grade 1. I just don't understand. It's a very strange thing to call yourself if, frankly, you can't justify it. And I have to check exactly which race this was. I think it was Hamilton, a race which was. We held possibly Hamilton, something switch, and they sort of demanded they had it themselves, and I'm thinking, well, there's no need to do it at all. I was looking into this, I don't think it was an old Lanark race. It can't be that, because I'm sure that this is what the issue I'm thinking of is much more recent. Lanark closed in the 70s, and I'm sure issue is much more recent, but they look a bit ridiculous, frankly, and I just can't remember which one it was. When I have a pint, I shoot up before my train back. I'll try to maybe catch parts of England game tonight against the Czech. Yeah, we're playing Czech Republic, Scotland, and playing Croatia obviously at the same time with synchronised kickoffs. Although probably just either try and just catch a highlight or possibly even just watch a full game, trying to avoid the result later on. Well, first 2 winners, and it sounds like Castle debut at 25-1, which sounds much better than it actually is, because unfortunately the favourite and the second favourite were both non-runners. Just both three off, one refusing to enter the stalls and the other being kicked, so God knows what Rule 4 is on that. Well, it might be rather hefty Rule 4 there, unfortunately, which don't know what Rule 4 is. If there's a late non-runner last minute, well, especially even early on, so perhaps your payment is just cut down, unfortunately. Not much you can do about that. So we've still got 5 races left. We've actually got first 2 winners. Neither huge, well, the second one had a decent price, but unfortunately, have a minute a decent price, but it'll probably be a lot less than that. I don't quite know what it'll be, so I wasn't sure what the odds for first and second favourite were, but certainly will be a pound against that. Well, if all 7 win on my horses, hey, I can afford to retire. But anyway, there's only 5 races left. Obviously, that will happen. Hefty Rule 4, so I expected 60 pence in a pound, basically losing 60% of my winnings. That's what you expected, and for with I think it was 7-4 and something about 5-2. But anyway, still winner, better than a punch in my face, certainly. Yeah, change of beer plans here. The original plan was to have one Python Ayr, then get the train to Glasgow Central and Central to Carlisle to Newcastle. So one Python Ayr. And I came here, the Kilmarnock. I started thinking, well, 2 things. One is the Scotland games, might be Glasgow and being played at Hampden in Glasgow, it might be really crowded. And I thought, well, let's look at maybe going back another way. Probably came here via Kilmarnock, and I might actually try consider going back that way. Looked at the train times, and actually I left it at a 10-minute earlier train out of Ayr when I was going to go on. Not a time for Python Ayr. Get to change at Kilmarnock. I have 2 hours in Kilmarnock. It seems a decent pub fare at Kilmarnock, and I just have £2 fare instead. One issue is though it's got TVs, and the problem is it could be quite crowded. Match starts actually about 8 minutes after my train leaves, so obviously people are going to be a pub earlier. I like a seat in the pub, so I'll have to see. If it comes to it, I might just stand. But I'll see what happens there in Kilmarnock. Somewhere I've never drank in before. Yeah, look, I might be in for a real old disaster yet again, this time in Kilmarnock. I don't know yet. I checked what pub it's going to go to, I can't remember the name offhand, and they're talking about being basically sold out for a Scotland game, or at least a few walk-in tables left. So I'll get there for 6, that's about 2 hours before the game starts. The question is, of course, when people get to a pub, and if they can't get into a seat or a couple of pints, then I won't. Frankly, I've never pub as well quite near Kilmarnock Football Club, but both of them have TV screens, which of course I don't mind at all. But that means they both probably show a Scotland game, and it'll be the same problem. So 2 pubs at Kilmarnock might not get into either of them actually. I've never hoped in a full, but that's like 2.5 miles to walk, and it's just too far to go there and get back. It's just a bit pointless. So see, I thought for a second here I'd opening 4 winners, and I sort of look at actually behind a bet. But I mixed up a 4th and 5th race, so horse and 4th and horse and 5th. But I do have 4 wins out of 5. Unfortunately, not enough high prices really to make to retire one. But I mean, I'd make a profit, but it's only small stakes bet anyway. But impressive enough win from a favourite, odds-on favourite in the Land of Birds Filly Stakes. I wasn't sure she was going well enough halfway. It can be difficult, I doubt if you have a track, even with a big screen, exactly how horses are going. But I thought she was slightly struggling. But she picked up well. She's really come 5th at Royal Ascot. I mean, she should have been, and she was too good for all of these. I thought she probably would be, and that was the case. And it was a nice enough win. I haven't actually got around yet to complain to Arco and Jockey Club about demanding passports, get into race courses, and they're not bothering to actually check them. We must go on to doing that. I've got a meeting with Newcastle on Thursday and Windsor on Saturday, both are Arc Wiener Racing Company courses, and so technically a passport. I live in Newcastle. I mean, I've got a paper passport for Ayr, even though it didn't say so. I was thinking, this can't bother with any hassle. Newcastle, I mean, I can't remember if it comes to it. I mean, I don't live in Newcastle. I was just going to take about an hour 10 walk. I've got something until 12 o'clock, and I should get there safer for the first race at 1:25. Take an hour 10. I get about 5 to finish getting changed on about that. And it's easy enough walk, really, just 12 along. But it's free to walk to Newcastle from my house, quite simply. I think the problem with Newcastle is the metro, the train. It's more expensive than my house to Regent Centre. There's only 3 stops, really, so it's across us 2 zones. It is rather annoying. I think rather silly. A better plan actually I've got in there is actually to take a bus, which sort of stops outside the racecourse. One of the 33 or so, 43. I can't remember which one there is. So you have to look up it yourself and check which ones are coming, which ones it is. That's quite cheap. Certainly cheaper metro is for only a relatively short journey as well, frankly. And sometimes I've got a racecourse used to put on a free bus. Now a lot of issues in Newcastle Racecourse, some but I mentioned them. And one of them was this, but they said this. I was off every meeting. Whether the information from Newcastle Racecourse website still said that the bus was at every single meeting. So I wait for the bus, and then it doesn't turn up, and I missed the first race because I just assumed, well, where's the bus? And it doesn't turn up, and I complained to the racecourse and said, oh, sorry, no, it's only for Saturday meetings, and I've made meetings. It might be for Thursday, I don't know. Of course, it may not, because the COVID might be on anyway, but so many issues in Newcastle Racecourse over there. I mentioned some of them now because I might as well do it at our next meeting. Firstly, there was a Friday beer festival. I think it was probably either in the Northumberland Place meeting when I went that day. And I remember campaigning for Real Ale, as I said before, and the web page for it said, the web page for the meeting said, if you're a Canberra as compared to Real Ale member, take your green card off along and you get £5 off grandstand enclosure entrance. So I put the card along, went to it still. A member of staff there says, I haven't got a clue, what are you going on about? Go to the ticket office, say what's going on, this is supposed to be done. Oh, we'll phone over, talk to somebody, gave me a name, I was sorted out. Get to the back to turnstile, same woman says, sorry, I don't know what you're going about, and it's not on my system, I can't action it. So I'm like, Jesus, it's not like a hidden sort of deal, this isn't a web page of a meeting. That's bad enough. I don't like over racing for Waitley, so I wasn't keen on Newcastle changing the all-weather course. I had some decent all-weather races, but I still don't think it was a bad plan. I do have to take I've got a photograph here where all the sand from what's coming from when racecourse is going to be good weather. I took a photograph of it at that point. I actually went to a plate when it was still turf, thankfully, but there's other issues. Newcastle won late meeting not that long ago. They had to cancel the last 2 races. I can't remember what date it was, but I said long ago, it was before COVID, because the floodlights failed, so we must have missed the final 2. Could do a final 2 races. I'll see if I can remember the other. Yeah, I've never been to Ladies' Day, and I have to say Newcastle just wasting points for the 12 Ladies' Days. There. And it's people actually make people Ladies' Days maybe don't realise they've been whipped off. Awful meeting, but Bees Ring Handicap is a good one. I have to say, about 15 grand to win. Wouldn't mind actually go to it. That meeting wasn't such a whip off. Something like 55 quid paying a ticket to work. I think the most expensive Ladies' Day ticket. I don't first Ladies' Days to go to them personally. Outside Aintree, I think, Cheltenham. And there's one other, Cheltenham, and the other one, Epsom. And Epsom's is the Oaks. Ladies' Day at Cheltenham, I can't remember what it is, but Cheltenham Festival. And there's the third one, which I've just mentioned, I've completely forgotten again. All of it was a grade 1 major race meetings. Newcastle was a pile of crap. A lot of classics races. In fact, I remember I had a racing bus subscription for a while, not now, and they just have 3 of the races as poor quality races. And this is we charge 55 quid for a payment ticket. It's 50, not 55 for a payment ticket with Ladies' Day, and it's just a rip-off. Bizarrely, I think we should be charging 5th because it's only grade 1, no group 1 races there, grade 1 race. I'm going to charge you little. I think we're charging 2 or 5, 10 quid more for it. I think we'll charge that 25 quid. I could get away with charging more for a payment ticket with that meeting. It's absolutely bizarre. And I'll see if there can be other issues I have in Newcastle, but there's still a few of them. Other a few good value things Newcastle Racecourse did was a gentleman preview event with a nice local mash and a couple of sausages, 10 quid. And it was actually a good evening, and I thought, oh, it's good value. So being Newcastle, of course, and a couple of years ago, made it 15 quid, or maybe 3 years ago. That says everything, really. You've got something that's good value. Why not charge me even more for it? More, and probably, frankly, more than when it's worth. Newcastle Racecourse, actually the racecourse I've visited the most times, and given, I always started going racing really 6 years ago, and given I lived in Newcastle, well, that's obvious, isn't it? Well, it's not. To be honest, and a long time it wasn't even in the top. I was a long way behind Ascot and York, for example, a long time. And the only reason Newcastle's ended up really top is because there was some relatively minor meetings, like 12.5 grand to winner, 10 grand for winner, which I think, which I wouldn't necessarily go to outside the country, certainly not outside the northeast. I went to Newcastle, and so eventually it came to top. And obviously, there's the happened a couple of years back when the Futurity Stakes, what was a long time called Racecourse Trophy, got cancelled and switched to Newcastle. I put a tweet up I put there when I was at the meeting, so pointing out what a strange list of 9 races, and what we ever the quality of other 8 races, and one race being out there on its own. But in July, so just looking something up, and July 2017, I sent a tweet to Newcastle Racecourse about Ladies' Day, and I said, oh, look, all these have Ladies' Day. Well, I'm pointing out, because I mean, it actually put me off going to the course a bit. There's so many this whip-off. I'm not the only person who slightly just felt for certain races I might actually not even turn up. So more minor ones of marginal about, because Newcastle Racecourse are whipping basically people off with Ladies' Day prices. People don't really know that they've been to an appalling meeting, frankly, about how bar the bees and handicap. And I remember I found a tweet I sent to the racecourse, it implied to one of the Ladies' Days tweets, saying this is middle of July 2017. At that point, there were 16 racecourses I'd visited more than Newcastle, and I live in Newcastle. And that says everything. It's gradually gone up because there was more minor meetings. Also been to fighting fifth hurdler 3 times. It's the only racecourse I would try and get to more than one. So I said I don't like going to my same meeting more than once. I still think I've been to a race. I've done it to very few. And quite a lot of most of those, and one was a Friday Selected meeting was about I forgot to go on the year before. And Recco for Zetland Cup, I was really going to support the racecourse as much as anything, and I think and Beverley recently have been to the racecourse meeting twice, but some of it's just no choice because I wanted to go to all the graded and group races in the country, in Britain, and sometimes I changed days and had to go to the Thursday of the Aintree Grand National meeting twice, basically because of the race change its day. But at that point, I'm saying a situation where it was not even top 16 racecourses I've been to for, let's say, 3 years I was going racing, so that's everything. I'd like top quality racing, where I've been to Ascot 19 times and Hexham once in the last 6 years. I was trying to get Hexham a bit later on this year, and I wasn't able to make any meetings, so try to get Hexham again. But Hexham, I've said at some point, Brighton's the only racecourse who's not a single Class 2 race all year. Toaster didn't either, but of course Toaster's closed, and they're not surprised because I think Toaster has managed quite atrociously. But Newcastle I once had another comment on Twitter, I think it's potentially a grade 1 track, even with all weather possibly, I don't know. But basically with grade group 3 races and grade 6 management. I'm not sure, I did also another comment, I'll put this up here as well, how many, at that point I think may still be pattern races in Newcastle. You put the Doncaster and York with 3, say, principal North Yorkshire stroke Northern tracks. And in fact, I think York's one's wrong now because of Bronte Cup. I'd have to check when that came in. I think that came in after this. So in fact, I think there's another one at York here. And this is just not good enough. It really is. Newcastle don't have enough good racing. And I think, I blame ARC, I blame the management of Newcastle as well. Both of it, all of it. In the second race, they sadly Nutwood Boy slipped, and so I must have injured itself, and sadly had to be put down. Now, I shouldn't have to say, look, this sad news up on my Western Post results, and I thought, well, after a few years later, I thought, hang on, oh God, that poor horse, what happened to him? The screen's up, and it's not good. And I think Racecourse should actually say what's happened, and it's right, if the horse being put down, should say this. Because it's not, you can't shy away from this sort of thing. You can't pretend it doesn't happen. And it's expected for horses, really, that if something tragic happens, tell people. Don't hide it. Don't pretend it doesn't happen, because it will start. You start looking. You need to be credible. And it appears to have just been a tragic accident. There wasn't no offences today. It's or hurdles. This horse fell out, tripped up, and started to be put down. But I don't ever heard. I mean, other horses in Britain that I've been to meetings. I don't ever heard of this horse is a rare thing when a horse dies. But I never heard a racecourse say. Of course, someone says on the TV. Well, racecourse, I never heard anyone say anything like this. They just move on to the next race, and I think it doesn't do anyone any favours at all. That you're just pretending this sort of thing doesn't happen. And frankly, it's not fair for poor horses who are running to, when this sort of thing happens, pretend it doesn't.